Coming up in the news tonight, the Bridgewater Bridge not given priority status in the federal government's national list of infrastructure projects, while Northern University campuses are endorsed. Tens of thousands of Westpac customers left out of pocket following a glitch in the bank's mortgage processing. Donald Trump severs ties with Britain's ambassador, who labelled him inept in leaked documents. And in sport tonight, the Ash Barty party is over after crashing out of Wimbledon. But there is a silver lining for the Aussie. She holds on to her world #1 status. Join us for all the day's news right here at 6. Tonight, why proposed upgrades to the Bridgewater Bridge appear dead in the water. A proposed high-rise apartment development knocked back by the Hobart City Council. Scammer Kane Dallow returns to court, this time without his own cameraman. Could Jackie Lambie fall victim to another citizenship crisis? Donald Trump cuts ties with Britain's ambassador and blasts Theresa May. And the National Basketball League to hit Tasmania later this year.
Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Joe Palmer begins now.
Good evening, everyone. We'll have those stories for you shortly, but first to some breaking news. And firefighters are battling to save an historic church in East Devonport. It's understood the fire began in the roof space of St Paul's Anglican Church at around 4 o'clock this afternoon. Crews from Devonport, Ulverston and Latrobe rushed to the weatherboard structure and used a crane to fight the fire from above. The church was built in the 1870s and restored in 2001 after being substantially damaged in another blaze. Investigations will take place tonight. A much talked about pledge to build a new Bridgewater Bridge has faced a major setback, dropping down a national list of priority projects. The government says it remains committed to the replacement amid concerns over the bridge's safety.
This is one of the state's busiest freight, commuter and tourism routes. The Bridgewater Bridge in desperate need of an upgrade.
There are problems with the ageing of the bridge and its ability to lift up and down over time, so it really does need to be upgraded regardless.
Michelle Wisby, 7 Tasmania News.
The Hobart City Council has knocked back a controversial proposal for a new 13-storey development in the CBD. The plan for the Welcome Stranger site was rejected last night following advice from council planners which said it did not meet the heritage component of the planning scheme. But it's left the company behind the application bitterly disappointed and unsure of what to do next.
We feel that it is a missed opportunity for Hobart and the greater community, and we certainly felt that the development proposal that was put forward was something that would have great benefit to the community.
It was not suitable, considering the really important 2- and 3-storey streetscape along Davey Street in particular, but also those other heritage areas.
The council voting down the plan, 7 votes to 4. A Launceston scammer could be facing home detention as an alternative to a prison sentence. Kane Scott Dallow pleaded guilty in February to selling fake advertising, ripping off thousands of dollars from a couple.
Head down and leaving court, but this time flying solo. His personal cameraman nowhere in sight, in a stark contrast to his last appearance. Ruby Kamane, 7 Tasmania News.
A new citizenship crisis is about to rock Canberra, with as many as 26 MPs facing new questions over whether they're eligible to sit in Parliament. Constitutional lawyers have found a High Court challenge could disqualify key figures, including a cabinet minister and even a former opposition leader.
Drafted in the 19th century's final decade, the Australian Constitution. Its authors had no clue one section would burst in the 21st century like a bag of cats.
A really significant issue that hasn't been dealt with yet, and it is something that needs to be dealt with.
And political correspondent Tim Lester joins us now. Good evening, Tim. What chance is there of this blowing open a new citizenship crisis in Canberra?
Well, Joe, it could, but I don't think...
Okay, our apologies. We do seem to have lost our cross with Tim Lester. We'll try and get back to him a little later this evening. Donald Trump has severed ties with Britain's ambassador, who labelled him inept in leaked documents. The US president has also lashed out at outgoing UK Prime Minister Theresa May, escalating the diplomatic drama.
2.5 years courting a president. Diplomatic dividends wiped out in a single Brexit tweet directed at Theresa May. In the United States, Ashley Mullaney, 7 News.
Tens of thousands of Westpac customers have been left out of pocket following a glitch in the bank's mortgage processing. Westpac was even aware of the error. Network Finance editor Gemma Acton has more.
Westpac is in the midst of refunding around 40,000 home loan customers who ended up paying too much interest after a manual processing failure at the bank. These customers had interest-only loans that should have been but weren't, switched over into principal and interest loans after the interest-only period expired. While 70% of those affected have already been compensated, the bank has not yet been able to confirm when the remediation process will be finished.
An advocate for Aboriginal Tasmanians has labelled a series of pavers highlighting pivotal moments in Launceston's history as biased racism. Michael Mansell says the timeline in Civic Square is a sanitised account of the state's past and goes against this year's NAIDOC theme of voice, treaty and truth.
We need to get a balanced perspective of the story by saying this is historical fact, so is that. And just replace some of the stones and add some of the pavers with the truth of history.
In a statement, Acting Mayor Danny Gibson says there's still a way to go in terms of hearing and understanding past transgressions against Indigenous peoples. Tasmanians will get an up-close look at some of Australian basketball's biggest names this September, with the state government spending $300,000 to host the NBL's pre-season tournament. The government says it's money well spent, while critics question the government's priorities in the midst of a health crisis.
The 4-day NBL Blitz will see all 9 teams playing practice games and running clinics across Tasmania.
Stay with us. Still to come in our broadcast tonight, how wind farm workers are watching out for injured wildlife. Hong Kong drops its controversial extradition bill, which sparked mass protests. And Ash Barty bows out of Wimbledon. Welcome back, everyone. Heavy vehicle convoys are about to begin between Burnie and the West Coast as construction ramps up on the Granville Harbour wind farm, with large components making their way through windy roads in an area where threatened animals live. They're undertaking special wildlife training.
Wildlife rescuer Greg Irons is demonstrating the simple but effective gear needed to care for animals. Injured and orphaned wildlife, common victims on our roads. Michael Breen, 7 Tasmania News.
A man who staged a protest on the Sydney Harbour Bridge says he felt compelled to make a stand for world peace. The Iranian refugee says he is sorry and acknowledges his bid for citizenship is now in jeopardy.
I do love Australians.
Nagi Pirzadeh enjoying an inner Sydney Harbour view today, about the closest he can get to the bridge. He is not allowed within 5 kilometres.
Hong Kong's leader has been forced to admit the controversial extradition bill that sparked close to a month of protests has been a total failure and won't be reintroduced.
There is no such plan. The bill is dead.
Ministers want Carrie Lam to resign, but she says calls for those arrested to now escape prosecution are unacceptable. A family holiday has turned to tragedy after an American toddler fell from a cruise ship window after slipping out of her grandfather's arms. The 18-month-old was killed as she landed on the dock in Puerto Rico. Horrified tourists described hearing her mother screaming. Investigators are looking into how it happened, with reports the grandfather was dangling the little girl out the window when he lost his grip. Dashcam video has emerged of a police officer in the US pointing his gun at a motorcyclist, then knocking him over for no apparent reason. The rider can be heard groaning in pain. The officer falsely charged him with eluding law enforcement. He quit the force a few months later. These are the final moments before an avalanche killed 8 climbers in the Indian Himalayas. It shows the mountaineers, including Australian woman Ruth McCants, roped together before the screen goes blank. The GoPro camera was found buried in snow close to where 7 of the climbers' bodies were found. The 8th body hasn't been recovered. Australia's world #1 Ash Barty has crashed out of Wimbledon after a stunning upset in her 4th round match. A disappointed Barty says she was simply outplayed, but is still proud of what she's achieved this year.
On paper, it looked like a simple match. The world #1 in sizzling form.
Great champion. Well, Rick Fontyn will be joining us with more of the day's sport news a little later in our bulletin. With the Western Bulldogs set to receive a timely boost in their finals push. Our cricketers confident of success ahead of their World Cup semi-final against England. And Michael Matthews, the best placed Aussie, following stage 3 of the Tour de France. Those stories for you shortly, but first after the break we'll take a look at the day's headlines. And then a donation drive heats up for cats undergoing treatment. And the revved up gender reveal which ended in flames. Welcome back everyone. These are some of the stories making headlines tonight. Plans to upgrade the Bridgewater Bridge suffer a setback as the project loses its priority status. Fire damages an 1870s church in East Devonport. Scammer Kane Dallow returns to court only to have his sentence adjourned. And Tasmania to host the NBL's pre-season tournament later this year. The 10 Lives Cat Centre has launched a new fundraising appeal to upgrade its busy hospital wing. The Newtown shelter houses cats undergoing medical treatment, but has been working with inadequate heating and roller shutters instead of windows. 10 Lives is now aiming to raise $15,000 to get the facility up to scratch before the end of winter.
So freezing right now every day. When the sun goes down, the hospital wing temperature drops dramatically, and with the fluctuating temperatures from night to day, it's becoming quite stressful for the cats and kittens that are here.
Gender reveal videos have become a hit on Facebook and Instagram, and so will this one, but for all the wrong reasons. It goes so horribly wrong, one of the organisers ended up being charged by police.
A moment of celebration spins out of control and dangerously close, a couple expecting a baby boy.
Australians are being assured tax cuts won't be delayed despite a record number of claims being lodged. 810,000 people have filed their returns, almost double the number in the same period last year.
We are operating at capacity so that the money can come into people's bank accounts on Friday this week.
Low and middle income earners will get up to $1,080. Let's take a look at the day's business and finance news. The Australian stock market is down for a second day as banks and tech stocks dragged the market lower. The ASX 200 index fell 6.5 points. Short time ago, the Australian dollar was trading at 69.57 US cents and just over 62 euro cents. Sport is next with Rick Fontyn. Good evening, Rick. Hockey Tasmania is urging fans to support our state teams.
Yes, that's right, Joe. Ahead of their debut in the all-new Hockey One League. We'll have more on that shortly on here. Also coming up, the men's big guns advance to the last 8 at Wimbledon. And Brisbane Lions coach Chris Fagan ensuring his side doesn't get ahead of themselves. Welcome back. The Western Bulldogs' September charge is set to be boosted by the return of Tom Liberatore, who will take on the Demons, provided he gets through Thursday's main training session. And the Dogs will also have some added inspiration this weekend.
They're some of the favourite sons of the West, but this Bulldogs legacy was very nearly over before it began.
I remember having last drinks at the social club. We were told that the club was going to merge.
Hockey Tasmania is urging fans to vote with their feet when the Tassie Tigers men's and women's teams make their debut at the inaugural Hockey One League. The Tigers' first home match is against the Adelaide Fire on October 5.
I want to see at least 4,000 to 5,000 people here at the Hockey Centre. I think we've got the best athletes in Australia coming right here. Some of the best athletes play for Tasmania.
They're one of the hottest favourites in Origin's 40-year history, but New South Wales says there's zero chance of complacency ahead of Game 3 tomorrow night. To retain the Shield, Brad Fittler's team must snap a run of 7 straight losses in series deciders.
The last hit out before attempting to secure their first consecutive series win since 2005.
Some magnificent vision of France at the Tour de France last night. Joe, looks like a pretty good choice of holiday right about now.
Oh, wouldn't it be lovely? Oh well, we're still here.
We are.
Thanks for that, Rick. Coming up next, Peter Murphy joins us with a look at the day's weather.
The power of weather, the power of winter, the power of Tasmania.
Good evening. A few showers over the west and northwest today with partly cloudy conditions elsewhere. The population centres all on 14 degrees, which was one short of the top recorded by King Island, St Helens and Friendly Beaches. Flinders Island and Ooze 14, Low Head, Strawn and Grove 13 today, Lyell Weenie 7 degrees. Best rainfall today was 21 millimetres at Mount Reid as that low convective cloud moved over the state from the west. Not much coverage over the east today. A low pressure system and cold front south of the Bight brought a shower to southern WA. Patchy cloud over central Queensland is due to an upper level trough. Tomorrow, a strong cold front should cross the state in the evening, also extending to Victoria and South Australia. A high continues to be the major factor on the rest of the mainland's weather. The wind shifting north-northwesterly and increasing to 30 to 40 knots from the west in the afternoon and evening tomorrow. Northwesterlies inland at 20 to 30 knots. So we have a severe weather warning for damaging winds. That's been issued for northern, eastern and central Tasmania for tomorrow evening. A gale warning for all coastal waters apart from the strong wind warning for Banks Strait, Franklin Sound and Storm Bay. A small craft wind alert for the inland lakes. Also, a sheep graziers warning has been issued for northern and eastern districts but not the Furneaux Islands. Hobart, tomorrow, 15, a shower or two developing. Rain developing for Geeveston, 14 and 13 for Bothwell. Launceston, a high of 13 degrees, rain becoming very windy late afternoon, 13 for Devonport, same sort of forecast, and for Cressy as well with 12 there. 13 for Burnie with rain and wind, 13 for Strawn, possible heavy falls, very windy for Curry on King Island and 14 degrees. 14 also the top for St Helens with rain developing, becoming windy as well. Swansea the same, 15 the maximum, and Orford 14 degrees. Most of that rain in the east late in the day. On Thursday, showers, although little over the east, thunderstorms possible in the west. Showers on Friday with thunder over the west and far south, snow to 600 metres over the southwest, and on Saturday showers over the west and south contracting to the far south by evening, morning snow lowering to 500 metres. Partly cloudy in Perth tomorrow, a windy day forecast and showers too for Adelaide and Melbourne, a cold start for Canberra, a sunny 18 in Sydney and a fine day in Brisbane. A bit of cloud around the state and currently 12 degrees in Hobart, 11 in Launceston and 11 in Devonport. And tonight's energy saving tip from the staff at Aurora Energy. Yes, they've spent all day in meetings and have just sent me their results. Now, a good tip is to follow the recommended temperature for your hot water system and turn your hot water system off if you're going away for more than a week. It's a great idea, Joe. Not good for those house sitting though.
No, not a good idea if you have someone house sitting. Thank you very much, Merv. That's all from the team for now. Have a lovely evening and we'll see you a little later. Bye-bye.